I want to do this quick audio. If you hear some random clicking, by the way, it's because I have to turn something in and I didn't really do it. So it's just me browsing through this random ass document trying to check if everything is alright. But today, as I always say, it's been a fucking while because it is. I do this. I wanted to record these videos, like in a how do you say it, with a routine, setting a routine. Like every week, I will upload one video, and I'll just fucking upload it when I get the time. It doesn't really require a bunch of time, but it does require me to play something and then sort of record that and then just splice it together, and that's it. But I got a PS5 recently, and I've just been playing in my PS5 instead of my PC, and I'm not gonna buy one of those things to fucking record everything and get it to my PC or whatever. But the point is not that. Today I want that was a fucking hell of a tangent. I want to talk about the after effects, the good and the bad after effects of using dating apps. I'm sure I have the recording somewhere, so I'm just gonna assume that it's somewhere in my channel. But but someone just messaged me, and we're gonna get into this. Dating apps, they are an extremely interesting phenomenon for me. Just so you know, like I'm sure you can tell because you have to be a certain type of person to upload this sort of videos, but I am a bit introverted. I have a good group of friends and a supporting family, and I am not lacking in any area except definitely the romantic part. Not in an incel kind of way. I never got into that rabbit hole, but I struggled. Basically, ultra summary. I had depression for a big chunk of my life, and it basically, how do you say it? I got hit with this wave of alexithymia. So romance was basically cut off from my life until last year, in which I started giving me space to feel stuff, and I started using dating apps because in my environment I just didn't have too much of a chance to meet people because I'm not a party guy. Parties overwhelm me and such, and a lot of stuff that I discussed in previous videos. But I always record this assuming that no one is gonna, I always assume this video is in a vacuum, so I try just to give brief context. But yeah, I started using dating apps, and I have a full-on rant about that. I'm not here to talk about dating apps in general. I'm here to talk about how I changed. And I definitely have changed. And a lot of that change doesn't have to do with dating apps, but a lot of that change does. First off, let's start with the good. I am so much more confident. I realized that, once I talked to a bunch of my girlfriends, I'm not gonna say female friends, even though it is, whatever. I'm just gonna say girlfriends, and you will understand what I mean. When I was talking to them, I'm just seeing them have 100+ people in their Tinder or their Bumble. Made me notice, like, a lot of these girls, maybe they just don't text you, not necessarily because they don't like you. It's just difficult to keep track of so much shit. And for example, in my case, in which I'm busy, I'm doing a double major, and I'm also trying to do this bunch of other stuff. If you just forget to text for a day, they're gonna forget about it because they have 100+ people texted them every fucking day. It's not like with me, which I don't have to scroll. I can just sort of gloss over my Tinder and I see every message, and I can just be like, oh, I haven't replied to this one. And so it's like crazy. And I also noticed a bunch of stuff for that. That is like a lot of people just say hi. And if you just say hi, it's even harder for like people to keep track because there's just a wave of hi. So how are you gonna remember which hi you wanted to reply to? The point is that I became a lot more confident because I realized this aspect of dating. So I just noticed that, boom, I text something, boom, hi, that stuff. And when the conversation went dull or they stopped replying, by the way, I always want to say this, that I always do this in a respectful way. I've never been told like, hey, no, or like being visibly uncomfortable, because if someone is, I just let them alone. Right? I'm talking about the cases in which I know the person Maybe they have a neutral sort of view of me, so it's fine, right? But I text them, oh, they don't reply, and after a while, I'm just like, I'm just gonna text them again. Hey, what's going on? You know, what's popping? You know, as Jack Harlow said, and it started working. It started, you know. Today I sat down and I got this big ADHD fueled, dopamine gold rush, in which I just started texting a bunch of people, and there was this girl that didn't answer me for like 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm just gonna text her again, because I do this thing which I send audios, which is not a good idea. But I talk a lot, as you can see, and I kind of need audios to organize my ideas. Well, to say them, I just basically spit all of my ideas out. I sent her a message, she didn't answer. I sent her an audio, she didn't answer. But after 2 weeks, I was like, I don't see, like, what if I just text her something normal? Hey, what's going on? If she doesn't answer me, then, 3 times the charm, I'm not gonna reply. That's fine. I can respect that. And she did. And I've started doing this a lot. I text someone, they don't answer. Let me text them again the next day. Don't spam them. But I was like, let me text them again. There's this girl that I really, really like. And she didn't answer me for a bit. I was a bit worried. Next day I was like, yo, and I just got an excuse to like send another message, changing the topic or something. And most of the time they don't acknowledge the previous shit I said, and they just focus on the thing I texted that day, and I'm fine with that. So we just continue the conversation. But what I mean is that I just started doing that a lot. Before, I was so shy that the second someone didn't seem completely into the conversation, I just lost it. I'm like, they hate me, whatever. And I also started dropping more compliments. I got super scared because, of course, you hear about all of this harassment cases, all of this crazy, I watch a lot of Moist Critical, so you watch a lot of those videos in which these fucking Redditors start trying to date someone and they go fucking nuts, and it's just uncomfortable. And my greatest fear was always turning into one of those. So I ended up going the other route, in which it's not that I'm being overly respectful, it's that in my search for respectfulness, I actually became fearful, which is different, completely different. You can be completely respectful of boundaries and the other person, and still be confident and still be forward, right? And I became fearful. And now I noticed that, hey, I'm just gonna drop a compliment, and usually I was, first off, it was a very progressive thing. I started off not saying any compliments. So people were like, I don't know if this person likes me, or like, it was just super friendly, right? Which sucked because I wanted to date them. But then I was like, let me drop a compliment. But then I immediately subverted a compliment by changing the topic, or being like, hey, I like that. Also, this thing. And now I just realized that sometimes you just have to let it sit there. Just be like, hey, I like this. I did this today. I was like, hey, what's going on? By the way, I love your art, is something that I told this girl, which I did love my art. One of my rules is like, if I want to compliment something from someone, I will make it truthful. And again, it's been a progressive thing that I worked mainly through dating apps. Well, not mainly through dating apps. I worked it a big part through dating apps, but also I started doing that in my personal life because I thought it was healthy. Last time I met my friends, I was like, pick at least 3 people here and tell them a compliment. Give them a compliment, not tell them. Give them a compliment about something. So I was like, hey, I like your ring. Hey, you're fucking looking amazingly today. Or it's like, yo, I like this certain thing, this certain aspect, right? In a casual way. And it helped me. So that's a good thing. I became a lot more confident. I became a lot more comfortable with the idea of just sitting with my sentence and not trying to fit this 100 of excuses and parameters and, hey, is it fine if I do this? Is it like, okay, and or just like being super skittish. I just changed that a lot, which helps me. Well, the second thing is that I also became a much better texter. Most of these people you talk to are not going to become like an actual date. Actually, I've only gotten 2 dates so far, almost 3, but yeah. Because first off, it usually takes me a while to get to know a person. I have to feel comfortable. Rarely do I actually propose a date in the first couple of weeks. Usually when I propose the date, well, the times I have proposed a date, they always accept. But I understand that if you do it in the first weeks, it's easier. After that, it just kind of gets stale or whatever. But I'm just super absent-minded today, so sorry if my video doesn't have a lot of coherence. Actually, I think I'm gonna cut all of that previous part. I know I said that I never cut shit, but I did. I'm gonna probably do it. So yeah, basically I became more confident and I became a much better texter. Just shorter messages became more concise, and I noticed that it became easier for people to text me back and stuff. Now let's get into the bad stuff. I've talked about this before, but I have what I call a selective addictive mindset. What I mean by that is that I don't get addicted to a lot of things. I know usually a lot of people are like that, but what I mean is that I've never been able to get into gacha, and I'll make this make sense in a second, right? I've never gotten into gacha. I've never gotten into League of Legends or MOBAs or stuff like that, or grindy sort of stuff. Besides Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, but we'll get to that. But there's something about sort of idle systems, like idle recharging systems, that just does something with my fucking brain. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Well, besides the gacha system, you kind of had to place some like matches, and if you ran out of, I think, like energy or combat shit, you had to wait for it. So I started getting super into just maxing the amount of material that I could get with the time I have in the day, and sort of browsing around in a way that I could recharge that fucking sort of limit to how many matches I can do in a day. And I got super into Adventure Capitalist, which is an idle game because you basically create this business. And it's the idea of cookie clicker, but imagine actually it's basically the idea of cookie clicker. But in cookie clicker, you usually buy a bunch of mini businesses, the grandmas, the fingers themselves, and a bunch of stuff. But in Adventure Capitalist, you buy different shops, and every shop is clickable, and you have to upgrade them all. So you can sort of, buy your shops, then automize them, and you can upgrade basically everything, and you just basically leave it overnight. And when you're playing, you advance much faster than when you leave it idle. But if you leave it idle, you also get some money, and I get super addicted to that. And in the same way, I got addicted to dating apps, and I just get this toxic surge in which I just need to talk to people. I need to optimize my conversation, and I've grown a lot because of it. But the problem is that it's not healthy long term. That's why I try to limit it. Because, for example, I told myself I'm gonna stop using dating apps a couple of months ago for my own mental health, and I did for a month. Then I casually got into it. But guess what? A couple of days ago, I met someone that I really, really liked. I think it's the person that I've liked the most ever. And I'm back to it. She didn't answer me. And I kind of got this need. And by the way, I still like her a lot. She's still the main person I talk to. But because of external circumstances, I don't know if we'll get to like date or stuff. I won't explain it because it's too long. But basically, not the second, but after sort of a day like that, I was just like, shit, I kind of need to talk to someone. I need to talk to someone. I just started talking to everyone at the same time. And again, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, so it just fuels this addicted part of my personality, and that is something that definitely I don't like. This desperate search for people to talk to. You should talk to people because you like them, and you should just enjoy the conversation for what it is. It's fine for you to feel good about it. It's fine for you to search for dopamine, but when it's this incessant search for that, when it's this addicted way of doing it, then I get pretty fucking scared. And I know I just mentioned one con for dating apps, but I think that's That's one of the main cons. Although now that I think of it, the other main con, and one that of course I think I didn't say it at first because I think it's like obvious, but I believe that it can sort of twist your perception of reality and how dating works because it's so gamified. It's so gamified that it's hard for you. And thankfully, I haven't gotten to that point, but it's hard to read people's profile and not feel like you're reading a curriculum, like you're reading a fucking resume, a CV, right? It's hard to personalize. It's hard to talk to someone in a personal way when the app does its best effort for it to feel as depersonalized as possible, right? Swipe right, swipe left, right, left, right, left. At the beginning, you're like, let me read everything. Let me look at the traits. After a while, you're just like, this takes too fucking long, and I need to find the people that match that like me quickly. And I could go person by person, which is what I did. But again, that takes too long. It's better to just swipe quickly and then just wait. But then you run through your matches in a quicker way, so well, through your likes in a quicker way, so you're like, I need to get more apps in order to find more people, and then you do that, and it goes back to the first point, which is that it's fucking addicting. But more than that is that you start seeing people as, okay, these are the traits, and let me just swipe. Like, it feels so depersonalized, like bring the person in, bring him out, and there's such a like that was a goofy ass onomatopoeia, but it twists how you see stuff. For example, one of the main things that I feel in dating apps that I don't feel anywhere else is the idea of leagues, out of my league, whatever. I've met real pretty people, and I meet real pretty people that I've thought like, hey, if what they want is someone to fuck, they're not gonna pick me. In that sense, I am out of their league, but because it is a more personal interaction, I feel the game is different. The person may pick someone else because they're prettier, but that's person dependent. I wouldn't say that in general the idea of out of my league or around my league holds up in real life. But in dating apps, it is so present. Because again, going back to the first point, you get these people, right? The girls mostly, and I say that because again, I've talked to many. Sorry for the sound in the back, the noise in the back. But I've talked to many girls, and it's just that supply and demand thing. There's just so many so many men, and maybe like not enough girls in dating apps. So I don't know why. And they just have so many people there that at some point, right, even I'm not gonna say that I'm the most unique person out there. Even if I was, like, on paper, when you break me down into this superficial traits, of course you're gonna find a lot of people that are almost exactly like me, if not exactly like me. And when it comes to that, once you find so many guys, and it's so hard to like compare them, that is just naturally you're just gonna start to have to filter them through something, and that becomes sort of looks, especially because it is the first thing you see. And again, you start swiping and you start being super thorough, but after a while it's just like something, your brain gets number, and you start swiping the person that you find pretty. And I do that, and I don't like doing that, but I do it. And the same way, I believe it's the same thing with girls. So yeah, I believe those are the main advantages and disadvantages. If I were to summarize, I have become a lot more confident, and I have become a much better texter, a much better, person to talk to in general. I've gotten more like traditional charisma. I've always had what I believe to be, and I say this because I have a bunch of examples and people that corroborate that and tell me, but I have this sort of presentation charisma, I believe. I don't know if it works through this video because it is improvised, but when I have to do like a presentation, or when you give me sort of a stage for me to just say what I mean, I kind of work. When I get my structured environment, I feel comfortable presenting ideas, and it has helped me a lot through college. That's why I say that I feel comfortable with that. It has saved me in a bunch of situations. This has saved me when I had to negotiate some stuff with teachers that they otherwise wouldn't have accepted, and stuff like that. And those are the advantages. And then the disadvantages is that dating apps are addicting, and it's hard that even when you're doing things right, you might be doing them for the wrong reasons, right? And hopefully, as of right now, I haven't hurt anyone because of this tendency of mine, but it is a big fear of mine. And the second disadvantage is that it is so depersonalized that it's easy for it to not twist your view of how dating works or how people work in general. With that, I will end this video. I hope you have a nice day. I will surely try to have a nice day. And oh shit, I burped. See you later.